Continue with a new chapter in just how low politicians will go, from insider trading to using illegal immigrants as pawns. New York City is sending illegal immigrants that were bused from Texas into the Big Apple now to Florida. This comes after Chicago Mayor Leland Vittert condemned Texas for sending migrants to her city and then promptly bussed them to the suburbs. But evidently now it's red versus blue, and blue's hitting back. Thus, it's a national news story. Months went by with hundreds of thousands coming across the border, hundreds of thousands released into Texas, and hundreds of thousands released into the United States to be put on airplanes out of Texas. And nobody cared. Literally, the major broadcast networks did not do a single story about the open border. Open border, no problem, who cares? But God forbid Texas Governor Greg Abbott sends a few buses to New York City and boom, it's front page news. Back in February of last year, the Chicago mayor went full sanctuary city. Illegal immigrants were great. We welcome them with open arms, but not if Greg Abbott sends them.
Instead of treating these individuals with respect that they deserve, the due process that our laws require, Governor Abbott chose instead to inhumanely load them onto buses. They're not cargo. They are not chattel. They're human beings.
She then promptly shipped them off to the suburbs. Eric Adams in New York, same thing. Let's be real. Nobody cares about the illegal immigrants, the actual people, until they, the individuals, can use them as political gain. The media won't even cover the story till it helps their team. Speaking of the border, we here on the program need to apologize. You might remember this soundbite from Vice President Harris over the weekend.
We have a secure border in that is a priority for any nation, including ours and our administration. But there are still a lot of problems that we are trying to fix.
Monday night, we followed the yellow brick road. Fact check, false. It was a segment we did. Right. Nobody actually believes the border is secure. A couple of million people come across it illegally. Border Patrol captures them, plus 500,000 gotaways, plus all the people we don't even know about. There is nothing secure about it, and Harris didn't misspeak. It's the administration's line. Here's the Department of Homeland Security Secretary a few months ago.
The border is secure. The border, we are working to make the border more secure.
That's the DHS secretary. It would be funny if not for such a serious topic. So now our apology. On Monday, we figured the facts matter. We're sorry. In politics, they do not matter. We're sorry to have bothered you with the facts. But the why part of this does matter. Kamala Harris isn't stupid. Ron Klain, the White House chief of staff, is not stupid either, nor is the White House communications team. They decided as a party line to call the border secure. Why? We couldn't answer that question. Hopefully Michael LaRosa can. He used to work for the White House. Phillip Wegmann covers the White House for RealClear Politics. Gentlemen, good to see you both. Michael, help us understand the calculus. Take us inside the White House when we've got all the pictures of the border and then the decision to come out and say, okay, the border's secure.
Right. So I think it's important to remember, first of all, that the number of apprehensions have been at record highs. And they started in 2020. If you recall, President Trump left with a 15% increase in illegal border crossings from President Obama. So the vice president is correct that we did inherit a broken system. That's for sure. And what she was saying was also, again, the Border Patrol is doing its job, right? So a record number of apprehensions.
Michael, I love having you as a guest, but you got to at least try to answer the question. Take me behind the scenes. I understand the spin. I've heard it from everybody. I want to know when Ron Klain and Kate Bedingfield and Alejandro Mayorkas and Kamala Harris sit down and say, okay, how are we going to deal with this question? You know you're going to get slammed by any media who can show the pictures on the screen. Why offer the opportunity for the fact check?
So there's a difference between secure border and a porous borders, right?
I'm waiting. Go ahead.
You were asking about the number of apprehensions.
No, I'm asking about why declare something secure that we can all look and see is not, and you know you're going to get slammed on that.
So seizing record numbers of fentanyl before it comes into the United States, you don't believe that's secure? Or seizing or stopping illegal immigration before it comes into the border, you don't think that's secure? I'm just looking at the video, and I mean, having spent significantly more time at the border than the president or the vice president, I doesn't seem secure to me. But different issue. Hey, Phil, I want to get you in on this. Phil, I want to get you in on this. How big of an issue does the White House think the border is going into the midterms, and do they think this is something that people really care about?
Well, first of all, their definition of secure is not one that is shared by folks who are looking at these images. I think that the distinction between secure and porous, that's not something that someone is going to really drill down into when they are seeing these videos and these images that you're referencing. The administration, they continue to talk about the bureaucratic mess that was left by the previous administration. They continue to talk about their efforts to get to the root causes, but they know that as the situation is currently, that Republicans are going to hammer them from now until Election Day, and for an obvious reason. From the New York Times to the Washington Post, everyone has noted that while interdictions between Border Patrol and migrants is up, also so are our border crossings as well, folks who are not stopped. So obviously Republicans are going to continue this, and the White House, they don't seem concerned.
Yeah, no, they don't. 550,000 getaways, which is an astounding number, 500,000 people that we have no idea about now in the United States.
That's also not new.
Michael, I just want to get, because it's not just Republicans. No, but the numbers are new. But Michael, I just want to get you on this. This is Joe Manchin, senator from West Virginia, a Democrat, yesterday about the vice president's comments. Take a listen.
Vice President Harris said this weekend the southern border is, quote, secure.
It's wrong. She's dead wrong on that. And for anybody, the vice president, anybody say that our borders are secured, that is not accurate. I've been there.
Go ahead, Michael.
No, I was just going to say that the record number of the border security issue was a problem in 2020.
Michael, every time we have you on, you go back to Donald Trump. I'm asking you about the politics of this. Does anybody actually believe her when she says that? Why try and spin this? What's the political
I'm guessing
motivation?
House Republicans probably believe her because they voted against $86 billion in border security last spring. So I'm not sure who to believe at this point.
Well, who to believe when it comes to politicians? Probably a wise statement. Phil, give you the last word on this. What are we seeing among Hispanics in Texas, in Arizona, in some of these states where the border is becoming so much more of an issue?
Well, if you walk down to the National Republican Senatorial Committee, they've got all sorts of data where they are willing and ready to make the argument that Hispanic Americans are not a fan of the current situation on the border, and they are of the opinion that this is going to help them in the coming midterms. But I just want to know, I think that both Republican and Democratic administrations have had a problem on the border, but we have seen a rate of change increase in the last 2 years, an increase in the number of crossings. And it has not been something that has been solved despite the vice president's efforts in Central and South America to get at the root causes. Yeah. I think that folks who are worried about this, they're not worried about this over the course of 10 or 20 or 30 years. They want something to change immediately and see these border crossings come down.
You know, it's interesting. The three issues that we have dealt with so far on the program, the border, insider trading by Congress, and the complete lack of support for the U.S. military in terms of pay are bipartisan failures at every turn. So, gentlemen, we appreciate you being here. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.